Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm live. I'm in my kitchen. So get involved in the chat and the comments. We're going to be talking about all the latest Manchester United news. A lot of stories this morning to get through. A little bit of a goalkeeping twist we're going to get into involving Lammens and Emi Martinez as well. What is going on there? Also, we'll be looking at, a little bit about yesterday's game. There's a little bit of a fallout from that. K Daniels is in the chat already. Says, Jay's never too... so I've lost that already. Honestly. I was just about to read that. Oh, there you go. Jay's never too early or too late. He arrives precisely when he means to. Yes, this was going to be 10 o'clock. Then I had to move it to 10 past 10. Usually we go live at 11:15, but things to do today. Bit of a busy day. So going a little bit earlier, but I appreciate all you guys getting involved. Mick Hollerhon says, balled it. Guilty as charged. Real recognises real. Morning, Jay. Harry on the boat says, facts. Jones, he forces, here we go, new goalkeeper and see him incoming or coming. Jay, tell us I'm right, please. Even our opposition are saying the midfield is open. We'll get into all that. Let's start with the goalkeeping situation, because this was a bit of a twist in the tail here with the goalkeeping situation, where basically, I don't know if you can hear my dog here making loads of noise. Apologies for that. She's usually quite good, but she's been a bit needy, shall we say. So Emi Martinez was linked with Manchester United about a month ago. If you remember, I was live in my kitchen. It looked like Emi Martinez to United. There was something in that. United apparently were going to make a £40 million bid for him. That's kind of went a bit quiet. It looked like it wasn't going to happen. We had a big debate that morning, if you remember. Some people were for it, some people were against it. However, it now looks like that was off. Senne Lammens from Antwerp looked like he was on his way, and that's like the done deal almost, because Manchester United obviously need a new goalkeeper. I think yesterday highlighted that. Listen, I know I repeat myself. Forgive me. I always repeat myself, but it's because my opinion doesn't change on certain things. I like Alcibiade there. Met the guy, was nice to my kids, lovely person. However, there's always question marks when he plays. There always seems to be something going on. It was against Arsenal, you saw it. Against Fulham, you saw it. And you saw it again yesterday against Burnley, where the second goal, he didn't cover himself in glory. There was also a moment as well where he sort of slid out of the area at one point, and you just see he looks nervous. Now, Andre Onana, he's pretty much fallen off a cliff. We saw against Grimsby, at fault for both the Grimsby goals. Just wasn't a good evening for him. And also, it's not helped with Andre Onana, where people share stuff that isn't true. I saw people sharing a picture of him sort of diving very early for one of the penalties, which wasn't true, but then it gets shared like it is. And I think it's bad enough he's going through sometimes where you go, okay, he's not really at the levels we need, but then people share stuff that isn't true, and then people think it is, which adds to the idea that he's just a complete and utter disaster. However, I digress. We need a new goalkeeper. I think every Manchester United fan agrees on that. I don't think that's the one area where there isn't any real debate. I've yet to see a United fan that says, no, we'll be all right. We're sorry. What are you on about? We need a new goalkeeper. Now, it looked like Senne Lammens was on from Antwerp. I was expecting a here we go any moment. I've been saying that for the last few days. However, Fabrizio Romano tweeted 3 hours ago, exclusive. Manchester United make new approach with Aston Villa for Emiliano Dibu Martinez. Talks remain ongoing for Senne Lammens, while Man United want to be ready if deal collapses with less than 48 hours to go. A new approach for Dibu took place with Villa and his camp. So it looks like there could be something in that with Emi Martinez. Now, it does say talks remain ongoing for Senne Lammens, while Man United wants to be ready if deal collapses with less than 48 hours to go. So it's not like the Lammens deal is off. However, it does seem that if United get the impression that that deal isn't going to go ahead, we've got a plan B. Now, look, am I a big fan of Emi Martinez? Not really. I do think he's got one in him. I do. He makes mistakes. We saw that at Old Trafford back in last season, where he more or less cost Aston Villa Champions League football, where he came rushing off his line and did the only thing he shouldn't have done when it came to Rasmus Højlund, which was to clean out Rasmus Højlund. Blatant red card. Bit unnecessary, in my opinion. And then Villa down 10 men and United get a win, and Villa don't have Champions League football. I've seen him a few times where he's done similar-ish things. He's done things you go, what is he doing? However, if we can't get Lammens, is Martinez a better option than Alcibiade and Andre Onana? Probably, yeah. He is. I think despite his faults, I don't think he's got as many in him as Onana and Bayende. And I do feel like them two in particular are at the point now where I don't think you can have him in your team. I really don't. I think it's so problematic. You can see, look, the defenders are all over the gaff. The fans are on the case. The opposition is sort of galvanised because you think, look, if we get a corner or if we have a shot, like these guys are not the ones. So I think we need a new goalkeeper no matter what. Let me know what you think, because Martinez is a bit of a liability at times, but I still think he's a World Cup winner, isn't he? I know that's not like, well, that's it. He's won the World Cup, so Manchester United should sign him. But the fact he's a World Cup winner, it gives him a little bit of pedigree, doesn't it? It does. It helps him a little bit. So I don't know. Maybe you need to look at that. Look at him and think, okay, could he be an option? Could he be a plan B? One sec. My dog's absolutely driving me mad. Apologies. Back now. Yeah. Is he an upgrade? Is he the player that we need? Is he going to solve the problems that we've got at Manchester United in the goalkeeping department? Let me know what you think. AP7 says it's defo not an upgrade. Brian Casey says the joys of live telly. Yeah, my dog's usually sat here, they're quiet, but she was on one this morning and she's been out. Stephanie Griffey says, real good morning, buddy. Jay, I believe we don't need Martinez. We need a dependable goalie and a dynamic midfielder. Sorry. And a dynamic midfielder. Then we have a base to grow and get the best out of Amarim's system. Okay, Sean, that's Sean Scully, by the way. If you don't want Martinez, who should we get? If it's not Lammens, is there another option? Is there a third option that we've not thought about? Because I do worry that if we don't get Lammens and we don't get Martinez, we're stuck in this situation. I just don't think you can carry on with these goalkeepers. The only option I think now, if we don't sign a goalkeeper, is to give Tom Eaton a chance. Genuinely. Santa Knox, I'd rather simply didn't resort to he's better than Onana. I agree with that, but who then? Let me know in the chat. If you don't want to see us sign Martinez, you don't want to see us, or we can't get Lammens deal done, who should we sign? Let me know. Give me some options, because for me, the only other option is Tom Eaton. If you can't get Lammens and you can't get Martinez, then you have to start Tom Eaton. But let me know. I want to hear what you guys think. I want to hear who your option would be. Don't tell me who we shouldn't get. Tell me who we should. Brian Casey's done just that. Diogo Costa should be looked at. Stephanie Griffith says, I always wanted Verbruggen, Premier League proven. Yep, I wanted Bart Verbruggen before he went to, was it Brighton he ended up at? Robin Lawrence says, hijack Donnarumma deal. Notar says, any Premier League keeper is better. Hugh Ramage says, Donnarumma. Some people saying this estate. Isn't he going somewhere, Donnarumma? Isn't he going, I can't remember where he's going, but isn't he going to another Qatari club? Isn't there something like PSG moving him on to a club we've got they've got some relationship with? I just feel like Donnarumma thing ain't happening. I would have had Donnarumma. I've always said that. I just don't see it happening. Yeah, Ayush Farmer says you got a Man City. He's got a Man City. Sorry, either Longstaff or nice. See, I said it wrong, which did me a favour there, didn't it? Doherty Boy One says, what's the Kovar situation? Good question. I don't know what's the latest on that. Cole Vitek back from loan, says Karen Weatherly. What about Jose Sarr? Says MU Fax. Colin Coupleditch, could we bring Vitek back from loan? Dave Bell says, if you are keeping the two clowns, then you bring Spanish Dave back. Yeah, a lot of love for David De Gea lately, because people are looking at Onana, looking at Van Day and saying, should we got rid of David De Gea? Here's one for you. This is a question. And this is where I think I lose the room. Should Dean Henderson have left? Should he not have stayed and fought for his place? And could he have ended up being Manchester United's goalkeeper? I don't know, People forget Dean Henderson at one point was number one under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but he spat his dummy out, didn't he? Massively. I think if he'd have stayed, I think there'd have been a pathway for him to the first team, and I think he might have actually become Manchester United's number one goalkeeper. Maybe I'm insane. Let me know what you think. Richard Porter says, morning, Jay. Took my daughter to the game yesterday, and watching us whip crosses in the warm-up is a bit embarrassing due to the keeper issue. I took my daughter to the game as well. Always got to teach these kids a hard lesson of life, haven't you? Jane Joe's adopted John Bendersip. Dane Joe's adopted son Benjamin saying Dino Henderson is toxic. You can do one. But the Ridges might have been burnt with Dino. I think they've been burnt with him now. I don't think there's any chance of him coming back. My point is, when he did leave, when he did spit his dummy out, should he have been a little bit more, I'm going to stay and fight for my place? Because I believe he said he didn't even want to train under Eric Ten Hag. He didn't even want to do that. Anyway, I digress. We're not getting Dean Henderson now. It's just a thought. You need a mentality to be a good goalkeeper. For us, Emi has that, says Bikers 2, F8, Dogma. Let me know, who do you think? Who do you think should be the Manchester United's goalkeeper? Do you think it should be Martinez? Do you think it should be Lammens? Or do you want to see someone else? What about Vittel, says Paul Bell. Vitek. Mate, won't have any Wayne Rooney slander on here. Stretford and Gas says Heaton. I think Tom Heaton right now should be our number one goalkeeper. I do. I think he's the least problematic of the three goalkeepers we've got. Like, you can see the nerves and feel the nerves with the other two. You can sense it amongst the team. Like, I feel like if we don't get a goalkeeper, it's going to be Tom Heaton. But I do think we will. It sounds like Manchester United are pretty much on it in terms of trying to bring a goalkeeper in. And if you can get that Lammens deal done, fantastic. Although I do worry it might take him a little while to settle. If not, Emi Martinez looks like who could be the next Manchester United goalkeeper. Interesting one that. There's a story here in the Daily Mail about Kobbie Mainoo. We've not had a Kobbie Mainoo story for about 2 hours. This is why there could be a twist in the saga surrounding Kobbie Mainoo. Kobbie Mainoo's Man United future. Writes Chris Wheeler. A £74 million start and draws another tough outing in 3-2 win over Burnley. Is a £74 million start, I believe, is that would that be Benjamin Sesko? I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, he was talking here about Cunha injury. So obviously Kobbie Mainoo went into midfield. There was a Cunha injury, and I think Mount picked up a knock as well, wasn't there? There was 2 injuries, and then Mainoo came on at halftime because of that, because I think Bruno I think it says here, when Cunha and Mount went off, Amarim's reshuffle saw Bruno at number 10 and Mainoo replaced the captain in midfield. He goes on to say, assuming United's £62.5 million summer signing faces a significant layoff, Mainoo may be needed more than he thought in the weeks ahead. The 20-year-old showed his importance in the dying seconds with the game locked at 2-2, twice getting back to prevent Burnley breakaways. Yeah, I remember there was one of them in particular where Burnley were looking away like they were away, and Mainoo did the business on that one. So, look, I've spoken about Kobbie Mainoo loads. You know my thoughts. I want him to stay. I understand his frustration if he doesn't feel like he can get in the team. It looks like there might be more opportunities for him if there's injuries, but I think it took, 2 injuries yesterday, and he did get on the pitch. So maybe he looks at it and goes, look, there is a pathway there if players get injured. I know it's not ideal. You'd like to think that you're sort of, straight in, but it's not like he's never going to play for Manchester United. It was interesting because a lot of people were saying about the whole academy record. Remember, Steve said it on off the bar a few weeks ago. He could see the academy record going this season, where there's not one player from the academy in the squad. I think that's a record that's been around for about 80 years or something insane. And I think Mainoo was the only one yesterday. It was from the academy. But I don't know. I saw someone on the brew in the chat saying that Amarim is aware of this record and will always put at least one player from the academy in the squad. He doesn't want to break that record. He doesn't want to be the manager to let that record slip. But I just saw a lot of people tagging me in posts on Twitter saying like, oh, Steve's going to be right. Look, this is going to go. Listen, regardless of your thoughts on that, I want to see that record continue, by the way. But it doesn't look like we're going to get a midfielder over the line in the next 2 days. And I don't think they're going to let Kobbie Mainoo go. Romano was saying yesterday that Mainoo had reiterated his stance that he wanted to go out on loan, and United had reiterated theirs that they don't want to let him go on loan. David Ornstein did an interview as well where I think he said something similar. So Kobbie Mainoo is going to be at Manchester United this season, I presume. I expect him to be. Certainly until January, unless there's a twist in the tail in the January window, which I'd be doubtful, but you never know. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more of him, because I do love Kobbie Mainoo. And hopefully the injury to Cunha, though, isn't too serious. I think there was footage of him wanting to walk in after the game, so it doesn't look like it's that bad, but we'll wait and see. Superman says, Jay, do you think it's true that Amarim wants to resign? It's very difficult with Amarim. I don't think it's true he wants to resign. But he said it himself in his Friday's presser. Like, he's an emotional guy. 1 minute he'll say things that, he hates the players or he hates his kids. I think he said at one point his kids catching strays. And then the next minute he loves them. So he's got that about him, man. I compared him to Kevin Keegan in terms of wearing his heart on his sleeve. Not as a manager, but just like Keegan used to do that. You remember we all laughed at him, didn't we, when he had that meltdown of, I love it if we beat them, just love it. I get a little bit of a vibe from Amarim like that. Not in the sense that he goes off his head and, screams down the camera, but he'll say things as a reaction after the game where he's quite emotional. He did it last season where he said, this is the worst United team ever. And then he rolled back slightly, didn't he? He said, look, I'm going to say things that are sort of off the cuff, spur of the moment, especially after a disappointing result. And he said it after Grimsby. And then a few days later, or a couple of days later, he said, look, I was emotional. The game had just finished. It was a bad result. I said these things. So there are always going to be these rumours, reports, whatever you want to call them, that Amarim's not happy or that he's ready to quit. he sort of said it himself at one point, didn't he? I think he said there was times last season where he was ready to offer his resignation, and we spoke to one of his former players on the channel who was managed by him in one of his first jobs, and he told the squad there that if they lost the next game, he was going to quit. He said, like, if we lose this game, I'm resigning. Obviously, he didn't, and he carried on and did very well, and then went to Sporting and smashed it and got the United job. So I think there's going to be an element of that with Ruben Amorim, where he says these things, where these rumours persist. I think the only end if you keep winning football matches. I think if everything's rosy and you're winning loads of football matches, then there'll be no dramas. But at the minute, things aren't rosy either. We have just won one, though, so we can at least take some comfort in that. We've got an international break. I did see a lot of reports and people sharing this on socials about everyone having a dig at the United players for celebrating and for being so emphatic after that win. Listen, I'm never going to moan about celebrating a win. We haven't had enough of them to start dismissing them. I've seen Manchester United teams celebrating wins when we were winning everything against teams as low down the table as Burnley. I remember once, was it New Year's Day, I think? We got a last-minute winner against Sunderland when Sunderland was struggling. We all went mad. And that was when United were winning titles and stuff. So it's nothing new celebrating a last-minute win. What was it, 97th minute winner? And I've seen a lot of people going, oh, look at United, look how far they've fallen and all this. I think, what are you on about? Why we're not allowed to celebrate last-minute wins? Surely football should be the place where you can go and enjoy yourself and embrace these moments. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with the players being relieved and happy that they've got a much-needed win. I don't get that argument. I think it's a weird one. Like, look, you can criticise United, and I'll criticise Manchester United, and I don't think we've been good enough, consistently enough over the last 18 months, 2 years, probably go back 3 years. But I'm certainly not going to criticise my team or my club for celebrating victories. That's just weird. Sorry, Atirak Bajab, Badge Pie, sorry, who's a new member. Welcome to the membership. We've got extra content on the member section there. I just wonder, and I hope that yesterday was a moment. I'm hoping, Ron C says, a win is a win no matter how it's done. I like that. I'm hoping that could be Ruben Amorim's Mark Robins moment. Remember under Fergie? Well, you might not remember, you might be too young, but under Fergie, we went to the City Ground against Nottingham Forest in the third round of the FA Cup. Fergie was under pressure. Our league form was terrible. We needed a good cup run. This was the FA Cup. Mark Robins got the goal. We won. And that was the moment it sort of, you felt that he went from being under pressure he was going to go to things kind of kicked in a little bit. We went on that cup run, won the FA Cup, won the Cup Winners' Cup the following season, the greatest achievement in the history of football, and then finished second in the league the season after that, and then won the title the season after that, and the rest is history. But that was a big moment. And I spoke to Fergie about that when I interviewed him. Didn't get a lot of time with him, but I did ask him about that. And what amazed me was that was 1990, that game, and I interviewed him about 3 years ago, maybe 4, and he remembered the players that were injured that game. He went through the squad and told me each player that was missing from that game 20-odd or 30-odd years ago. It's phenomenal memory. But yeah, that was a moment, Fergie. I'm hoping yesterday could be a moment where we look back and we go, right, this is where United started kicking on. Let me know what you think. Do you think Ruben Amorim can now get it right? Have you gotten any comfort from the Burnley game? Have you still got worries? Are you still like, it's not really showing me anything, Jay? Let me know what you think. Regardless of whether you think it's showing you anything or not, I think you can still enjoy a win. I don't get that. Adel Samakia says, he's been in the chat a lot, so appreciate your support. Some people will criticize anything, anytime. Sorry, I didn't see this, but number 7 says, saw how Amorim laughed when they asked him if this is a turning point. So obviously he doesn't think it is. Stephen Maguire says, didn't Burnley beat Liverpool 1-0 a few seasons ago? Phoenix says he'll get relegated. Marco Ramos, my favourite chat here, says, you interviewed Fergie. Weird you'd never mentioned that before. Don't really like to go on about it. Adel Samakia says, I believe and support Amorim. Nothing wrong with that at all. I get it. Manish Bandari says, Jay, I think we will be going from praying for Emi Martinez to concede goal to praying for every effing shot saved. Akash K says, yeah, I like to see VTech get a chance, but we loaned him out. Phil John says, we're offering more up front. Midfield and keeper is going to cost us, isn't it? Kieran says, that jacket Amorim was wearing during the match was very nice. My missus said the same thing. My better half said, yeah, that Amorim jacket was very nice indeed. And yeah, I agree, it was. Brian Casey with a great point. Klopp celebrated a draw in front of the Kop, the Muppet. Yeah, do you remember the draw against West Bromwich Albion in the 2-2, where he lined the players up and they all did that? They celebrated that. Look, celebrate wins, celebrate draws against West Brom if you want. I'm not going to lose my mind about that. I was at the game. I enjoyed that win and celebrated at the end, as I'm always going to do. Some balloons there just appeared. Look, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you to everyone who's got involved in the chat. Always a good chat on a Sunday. I do enjoy it. Going to be back tomorrow. We're going to have the news in the morning, and then we're going to be live in the afternoon. Got the Paddock podcast. Plus, as well, we're going to be talking transfer deadline date. So we're going to have, I think Damish is coming on the channel. Plus, we're going to go through to, I think, is it 7 o'clock? The deadline ends. So we're going to have a live from like 6 till 7, me and Joe Smith, I think, or maybe 6:15. Or 6:30 till 7:15. So we can go through all the transfers, not just United ones as well. We'll do like roundups of all the transfer news that's happening. So make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe. I'm Emi Motty in a pretty, it was sunny this morning in sunny Salford. Now it's going to be cloudy. Thanks for watching.